Williamson Herald High School football highlights are sponsored by Moody's Tire and Auto Service with 2 locations to serve you in Williamson County. Moody's Tire, doing it right for over 70 years. Find out more at moody'stire.com.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome into this Week 14 edition of the Williamson Herald High School Sports Extra. I'm Joe Williams, the sports editor at the Herald, along with the sports editor of the Columbia Daily Herald, Maurice Patton, who is also the executive editor of MoPattonSports.com, and probably 4 or 5 others that we don't know about yet. You're always,
just for the record, though, this is week 15. 11 regular season weeks. This is the 4th week.
That is correct. This
is
week 15.
Week 15, but that's okay. 14 games.
I don't need any help looking bad. I do one of my own.
Just for the sake of journalistic accuracy. There we go. Yeah.
Boy, I'm not sure we've ever been accused of that before, but that's a whole other story.
Well, we're striving.
Yes, we are, every week. Hey, it has been a long season. We're getting right down to the end. Behind us, the Brentwood Bruins getting ready to host a state semifinal game. Folks, it's really very simple. Somebody from Williamson County is going to the Blue Cross Bowl in Cookeville next week. Question is it Independence going back for their 30th straight and 2nd straight title? Or will it be Brentwood, who's just come on so strong here in the playoffs?
Oh, no doubt. And, this Brentwood team, because I'll come up with something else, I don't know that was necessarily expected to be here. We talked over the offseason, we talked over the preseason about Ron Crawford being here his 2nd year now and what this team was going to do. They got into the playoffs last year, won an opening round game, lost in the 2nd round. I think a lot of folks wondered what they would have in store this time around and figured whatever they had, Crawford would get it out of them. Well, sure enough, we're sitting here talking about a Brentwood Bruins team that's a victory away from going to Cookeville.
They'll be facing Independence. We'll come back to Brentwood in a second because I want to talk about Independence real quick. The Eagles went up probably their toughest game so far this season as they had to go to Cane Ridge. They come away with a 49-46 victory after leading by 30 going into the 4th quarter. I guarantee you it has been an interesting week with Coach Scott Blade and his charges down in Thompson Station.
It's been an interesting week. It was an interesting night, Friday night. You talk about survive and advance in the postseason, but forget that. I mean, when you're up 30, you want to go ahead and close the deal, and that's what this Independence team has done all year. And I think you have to credit Cane Ridge for a lot of that, but at the same time, there were some plays that Independence didn't make. And I think kind of like Summit maybe was a wake-up call for Cane Ridge in the opening week of the playoffs.
Yeah.
You have to wonder if Cane Ridge was a wake-up call for Independence here this past weekend, and I think we'll see Friday night.
So if you want to catch the margin of a team who can come out and take those licks, kind of like a fighter, late in the fight who thinks he's got it won. They're looking for the knockout punch. They took the punches and survived.
No doubt. Yeah, it's a good thing they were up 30, I guess, because they just got to a point where they couldn't get anything done offensively. 5 possessions in the 4th quarter, didn't get a first down. And, it was really.
That's so unusual.
Exactly. That's really unlike an Independence offense. And they just, for whatever reason, whatever had been working the first 3 quarters wasn't working. And a lot of that was Cane Ridge defensively. We knew they had a great defense, but some of that was just Indy just not being able to seal the deal. And I'm sure that's what Scott Blade and that coaching staff has talked to those guys about over the course of this week as you get ready for this ball game.
Brentwood gets here, upsetting Centennial at Centennial. What just a crazy ball game. Brentwood really kind of dominated the game, to be completely honest with you. And it just a credit to the kids at Centennial, the way they fought back in the second half. And you knew this was going to be a nail biter down to the last second.
Oh, absolutely. And in a nail biter like that, obviously the advantage goes to Brentwood when you've got a weapon like a Tucker Day. I mean, he hits 3 or 4 field goals, and from the indications I get, the one he missed might have been the most impressive.
You got to understand, I grant you the wind was at his back, but Day steps up looking at about a 57-yard kick. He kicks this ball. It is 25, 30 feet up, almost to the top of the right upright. and hits the right upright. I'm thinking it's going to go through. It was like just a shooting a bird. It went straight down. Guys, this thing had another 10, maybe 15 yards that it could have traveled.
Somebody who has watched that game film pretty closely, and we'll leave it at that, told me it would have been good from 70.
Yeah, well, at 57 and 15, yeah, it'd be right there. The thing about it was he shook that off, came right back. The team put him in a position for a 35-yard, 4 seconds on the clock. And, I mean, it was like watching a kid eating a candy bar. I mean, it was really that simple for him.
Yeah. Well, that's
very confident, came out, struck the ball, and watched it go through, and ball game.
That's he doing what he do.
Yes, and does well.
Yeah, and, if you're an Independence team, that's a guy that you have to be aware of, in all phases of the game, because he can flip the field on you in the punt game. You're going to get the ball at the 20 on kickoffs, and if Brentwood has the ball from the 35 in, they feel like they're going to come off with 3.
Well, and that's one of the keys to keeping the game going the way it did. He nailed about a 65, 70-yard punt, no kidding, that slipped through the receiver's hands because of the rotation that was on it. And Brentwood recovered at the 4. They scored 1 play later.
Right. Yeah. I mean, special teams are so important this time of year. Again, I was at that Independence-Cane Ridge game. Cane Ridge missed an extra point after their second touchdown. They're suddenly down 14-13 instead of being tied. They catch themselves chasing it, trying to get 2-point conversions on their next 2 touchdowns. They missed both of those, so they're down 21-19. And then they get a punt blocked that Independence scores on. Special teams is huge this time of year when you're even everywhere else.
And with the loss, it's tough to have a loss of a football game, but it's just a football game. We want to take a moment and share our condolences and let you know that our hearts and our thoughts and our prayers go out to the family of Jim Cheek, who was a receiver on that Centennial team, who unfortunately died in a tragic accident in Dixon County on Monday after the game on Friday. And, it really, I know Friday's going to be important, but I think it really puts it into perspective. It is a game.
It is a game, and it was really heartwarming to see all of the tweets from all across the county, all across Middle Tennessee, expressing their condolences from different athletic programs and different school administrators and administrative teams and that type thing. And I think people realize, this Centennial athletic program, this Centennial student body, the Centennial community's really been through a lot here in the last year, going back to last December when they lost a student athlete, 2 students, and a former student in a car mishap down in Murray County. So, Lee Webb and that bunch have really, really been through it. And like you said, our hearts and our thoughts go out to them. And as as Centennial parents, even though our kids are gone, we're still connected to that community. It's really, really tough.
One of the things, Mo, that really touched me, not only it was the entire county, not just the county schools, but you saw BGA reach out, you saw Grace Christian reach out, you saw Brentwood Academy reach out. It truly is a community.
And like you said, athletics aside, we're talking about kids, we're talking about people right here, and it's bigger than what has happened or what's getting ready to happen on Friday night. And our thoughts are with the Cheek family and the Centennial community.
Speaking of Brentwood Academy, the Eagles picked up their win Friday night. They're going to the state championship again. They're looking for title number 12 as they beat Baylor rather handily. On the other side of the bracket, everybody was looking for that matchup with NBA. Let's see it again. And the Big Red almost let us down. Ricky Bowers and the guys over at Ensworth jumped out to a 17-0 lead, and everybody just kind of went, wait a minute. And all of a sudden, here comes Brentwood Academy rolling back 3 touchdowns. They'll play in the Division II 2A championship on Thursday night.
And that's obviously next week. So the Eagles get this week off, but definitely looking forward to that ball game. Again, a rematch of last year's state championship game. Brentwood Academy 56-55 double overtime. MBA won the regular season matchup this time. MBA lost to Ensworth in the regular season 21-20, so we didn't quite know what to expect out of that one this time around. But again, we pretty well knew given that Brentwood had handled Baylor 35-0 the first time around, we kind of felt like the Eagles were going to be there. It was just a matter of who they were going to catch. We get the rematch.
Well, Baylor upset previously undefeated Memphis University School, so Brentwood Academy going back to the Blue Cross Bowl for another.
Again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real quick, let's kind of take a look, Mo, at the rest of the teams in the county. This will be kind of our last chance to recap the year because we've had a great year once again. You had Centennial, Brentwood, and Independence. Boy, they'll shoot me for that one. All in the quarterfinals of the state. Summit made the playoffs. Scared Cane Ridge to death in the first week.
It really did.
Ravenwood, Franklin both went out last week in a rain-soaked, horrible trip to Memphis. Both of them lost in the quarters there, but no shame, they lost to two very good football teams after a long drive and games that were delayed by anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes down there because of the weather that came through. PGA had a good run. I think that's everybody. You know,
Page.
Thank you, Page and Fairview. Those two guys. Page made the run through. Fairview with their solid run that ended a little bit earlier than I thought it would. And GCA hopefully will be in the playoffs next year. We had almost every school in this county in the playoffs this year.
Which really made your job tough, didn't it?
It made it, yeah.
Challenging.
Charles Pulliam, let me tell you, Charles Pulliam put a lot of mileage on his vehicle moving from place to place on a Friday night.
Yeah, the highlight video from the season ought to be a pretty good one.
It's going to be an hour and a half long. But next year it'll be a little bit different. We get back to what I call a little bit of normalcy. We'll see our schools, the Williamson County schools, the Big Six at least, all together. One change, by the way, Brentwood did appeal. If you missed this one, they are now, the TSSAA is now classifying by sport, not by school. Brentwood Academy's four-time defending state champion volleyball team.
Brentwood High Schools.
Brentwood High School, thank you. Wound up in the Nashville district. The only one out of Williamson County that went up there. They had an appeal, and TSSAA said, yeah, it made more sense to put them here. Dixon County requested to move out of District 11 and into District 12 with Nashville, so it was a nice, easy move. We're going to see a lot of strange things. Basketball season next year, we'll talk about this later, it's going to be crazy for all of us. But for football, the Big Six get back together.
And you know, from a scheduling standpoint, from a fan standpoint, that's all well and good for the first 10 or 11 weeks, but there's going to be somebody good that's going to get left at home. Lee Webb pointed that out in a tweet, right after the reclassification configurations came out, that it's great to be back together, but we're going to be knocking each other off. And with only 4 going,
and winding up catching each other again in the second round probably again, if they continue to play.
It's be careful what you wish for. It's one of those kind of deals. I mean, we didn't like it when they were split up, but by them being split up, we were able to get some of our local teams a little deeper into the postseason. Next year, we're going to have some teams that don't get into the postseason at all. So just
be careful.
Yeah.
Speaking of careful, don't eat too much on Thursday.
Yeah, right.
We all have a lot to be thankful for, and it's more than just the food. And I got to tell you, I'm thankful for these two guys and getting to work with them on a regular basis. So let's get out of here. Let these kids get back to business. For Maurice Patton and Charles Pulliam, who's behind the scenes, and we're going to drag him in front of the camera here before long, I'm Joe Williams. Thank you for joining us on the Williamson Herald High School Sports Extra. We'll see you next week.